CIO, CISO Executive Nuggets, Information Security Virtual Strategy and Management Session. My name is Pooja Joshi and I'm the International Business Head CISO at EC Council. I've been into the training and education industry from past 21 years, and it's my privilege to welcome all of you here. The COVID-19 outbreak has introduced almost overnight changes to various landscapes across the globe as it swept through continents. Organizations are now facing new challenges in the cybersecurity landscape as offices globally issued mandates for employees to work from home. Equipments that are usually kept within the safety of the organization internal security setup are now being taken home, thus increasing the organization's vulnerability to attacks by opportunistic cyber criminals. However, a few simple good practices by employees working from home can go a long way. Life is becoming virtual now. People are slowly and gradually accepting this fact and moving on. Because we all know that the show must go on. So let me give a little background about Innovare, the organization who has organized this conference. Innovare, as we all must be knowing, is a management consultancy company established to assist business to adopt standards and frameworks towards achieving organizational excellence. Innovare, as an information technology security, risk, governance, and IT audit company, embraces strong competencies in ISO 27001, PCI, cybercrime investigations, cyber law, and the entire spectrum of IT security trainings. This event is being brought to you by Innovare in partnership with EC Council, MTN Ghana, Isaka Accra Chapter, Business Ghana, and TV3. So our today's speakers would be throwing light on the various aspects of cybersecurity, the new norm, opportunity, risk, new challenge during this time, and definitely the CISO perspective for the same. So our speakers for the day are Jacqueline Hanson, Senior Manager, Enterprise Information Security and Governance, MTN Ghana. Rafael Narezi, CIO, Digital Transformer and Cybersecurity, Wise Energy, Europe. Carl Seki, Deputy General Manager, GCNet and President, Isaka Accra Chapter. And CK Bruce, CEO, Innovare. So before I invite my first speaker, let me do a little bit of a housekeeping. So your microphones should be muted automatically. I request all of you to turn off your videos, but please feel free to ask questions via chat box, or you can raise your hands also. We will have a Q&A session at the end of all the presentations. And lastly, we really hope that you find this session very interesting and look forward to your feedback following today. All right, so the life of a CISO is totally different during this pandemic, and there are new set of norms, new thoughts, and the new normal. With that thought in mind, let me call our first speaker, Jacqueline Hanson. She is a Senior Manager, Enterprise Information Security and Governance, MTN Ghana. She comes with a lot of certifications like ISO 27001 LI, CGEIT, GRC Practitioner, CCO, COBIT, Foundation, and Implementer. So Jacqueline is going to speak on the new normal CISO. So over to you, Jacqueline.
Thank you very much, Pooja. Hello, everybody. It's a privilege to be part of this August gathering. I'm going to just share my screen and get right into it. Right, so I think Pooja has given us quite a good introduction, and we've encountered the new normal like never before. COVID-19 has just swept in and changed our life forever. The world is never going to be the same. We are all trying to cope with it as much as we can. However, the outbreak would definitely have long-lasting implications for our global economy and the world as a whole. It has had a devastating impact on global education. According to UNESCO, about some 1.3 billion learners in the world have been impacted. I'm sure you and I have been impacted, especially if you have children. They are all at home. They come running in when you're having serious, important meetings, asking for snacks and the like. There's a myriad of ensuing issues that I don't think we have even quantified or fully comprehended. The physical issues, the mental issues. I, for one, I know I've put on weight. So I must apologize in advance for not showing my video. It's affecting societies and economies at the very core, and no doubt it will jeopardize lives and livelihoods for years to come. We've seen significant and adverse impact on the global economy, countless job losses. I saw today on BBC that Boots and John Lewis are closing shops and cutting about 5,300 jobs. Governments are working hard to kickstart the economies. Entire industries have been crippled. Airlines, hospitality, nobody's flying anywhere. Hotels are empty. It's something that I think none of us ever thought we'll see in our lifetime, but yes, it's happening due to COVID-19. Organizations are having to think of innovative ways to stay afloat, because if you don't do that, you would end up dying, and they have to reinvent themselves. We're seeing new and interesting trends coming up as well. I'll talk about that in later slides. So COVID-19 has really pushed us to go into digital transformation and innovation even faster than some of us thought we will. Organizations are having to look at different ways to do things. How do they change their business models? How do they change their products? How do they interact with their customers? I think all this is something that we are all facing now, and it's what we term the new normal. So I think this is a popular cartoon that's going around. Who led the digital transformation of your company? A year ago, this would have looked very different, and I'm sure everybody would have gone for the obvious choice of B. However, here we are, and the answer now is C. The virus has caused a shift to more adaptable and agile solutions for businesses. So we'll say COVID-19 has led the digital transformation of our company. What is digital transformation? Someone asked. To me, I think it's the process of using digital technologies to create new or modify existing processes, cultures, customer experiences to meet the changing business and market requirements. So you use systems of intelligence, you empower your employees, expose them to collaboration tools. These days, we all live on Teams, we all live on Zooms. We can't say how many Zoom parties we've attended. You engage your customers through chatbots and other innovative ways. You optimize your operations, you even transform your products to be able to adapt to the times that we are in now. So like I said, I'm going to look at some trends that have come into play due to COVID-19. Some of these trends, I think number one on this is remote working. This is the new normal. We've seen unprecedented number of people working from home. I never thought I'll see this happen. When regardless of how equipped you are working from home, whether you have an office desk in your house or you have to sit in the veranda, you are having to work from home. And we are conducting executive communications, employee trainings, internal meetings, job interviews, everything. We are conducting these from home and online. This has become second nature to today's professional settings. I read a recent survey which reported that even when offices open, work from home is here to stay. Very interesting. So number two, another digital transformation trend. This is my personal favorite. With the lockdown and social distancing, as well as all the health concerns with handling money, I think we have seen an increase in digital payment solutions like never before. The global financial sector has really seen a decade's worth of digital adoption in what, about 2 months? Suffice to say, there's a marked change in customer behavior, and this massive migration from conventional methods of payment has increased the demand for digital payment solutions. In Ghana, I think we've seen a significant rise in mobile money transactions and also mobile money registrations. I don't think there's a church in Ghana now who's not accepting mobile money. I think this will, going forward, force financial institutions to review their digital banking roadmaps in order to meet the changing needs of the consumers. I think this is here to stay as well. So number 3, the rise of virtual platforms. So digital platforms, virtual platforms, interactions have exploded during COVID-19. Video conferencing, well, here we are on Zoom having this conference. Messaging, collaboration tools, streaming, and document sharing have all become commonplace for successfully navigating a work week, whether it's professionally, whether it's for personal reasons. We are attending Zoom parties. We are jamming online to DJs who are either on Instagram, who are on Facebook, who are on YouTube doing their thing. At the end of March this year, Slack, which is a team chat app, reported having added 9,000 new customers in Q1 alone, that which is up from 5,000 in each of the previous quarters. We also saw and heard that Zoom's shares went up significantly. I'm also rapidly discovering that there are apps for everything. I recently discovered an app that prompts me to drink water and measures how much water I have drunk or haven't drunk. It's amazing. It's really amazing. So number 4, the rise of virtual events. So graduations, church services, music concerts, weddings, and even funerals have all gone virtual. This is medically necessary, yes, in order to adhere to social distancing, but it has other benefits. I think the lack of flying is also reducing carbon emissions, but it's also going further to connect global communities. Technologies now exist to deliver immersive, interactive digital experiences. And I think businesses can go further to monetize these events as well. I recently discovered something called live commerce. The ladies here would like that. This is actually achieved by fusing online retail with live streaming. Very interesting experience, which I think I'm yet to experience. I'm yet to experience as well. Number 5. Digital commerce. I think digital commerce had gained some popularity. However, right now, and especially during the lockdown periods, we had nowhere to go. We had no options but to buy online. Brick and mortar retail stores are shutting their doors. Big names in the US like J.Crew, Neiman Marcus, to name a few, have all filed for bankruptcy. In the US this year alone, about 5,994 store closures have been announced. Online has become one of the only places for retailers to connect with their customers. Today, chatbots and mobile apps allow online retailers to ensure that customers are well looked after. Machine learning is being utilized, and this technology also provides personalized recommendation based on the user's activities. These are just a few of the interesting trends that have risen as a result of COVID-19 and the lockdown enforced in many countries. I think we'll see many more going forward. And I can't wait to see what happens going forward. So I think COVID has shown the world that the world needs to pursue full digital enablement. It has underlined the need and the urgency for change. Companies that didn't get with the program and are now facing huge losses. I think Primark, which is quite famous with the ladies, went from 650 million pounds a month in revenue to zero because it refused to sell online. We all know the BlackBerry story and how iPhone came with their touchscreen and killed it. So I think digital transformation has always made sense. it's always been the way to go. Adoption, however, has unfortunately been quite slow. And I think because people and organizations have been overwhelmed by its concepts and around the transition, the sheer size of the task involved with this, the investment necessary to achieve this. Will I get my return on investment? The struggle to figure out where digital value is coming from and where they can find digital dividend. I think these are a few of the issues that have stifled the rush for digital transformation or held people and organizations back in its adoption. Okay, so after all that I have said, we're doing things online, we're attending Zoom parties online, we're buying everything online. In Ghana, even Melcom is online. I don't know if they actually started before the lockdown, but during the lockdown, I was pleasantly surprised to see that you could order from Melcom online and they would deliver. With all this transition to online, it's no surprise that the criminals are also going online. For health and safety reasons, criminals are transitioning to cybercrime. We've seen a lot more in the cyberspace, increase in phishing, increase in malicious threat actors and the like. I think this obviously poses a bit of a problem for CISOs and security professionals alike. Coupled with the unplanned acceleration of digital transformation initiatives, the CISOs and the security professionals definitely have their work cut out for them going forward. All this being said, I think the CISO position needs to evolve to be able to accommodate this fast transition and this explosion of cybercrime, and with people working from home who need to be protected, and they need to now become the frontline defense of their organization. The movement towards digital transformation comes with the burden of increased security risk for the CISO. As our world becomes increasingly connected and technology becomes more sophisticated, the threat landscape has expanded beyond what we could think of, beyond what we could comprehend. I think this connectedness means that there's an expansion of the attack surface as more applications, more data, more processes are moving more and more into the digital realm. This has created opportunities for hackers, definitely, and other bad actors, as there are more potential points for entry now. I think it's also making it difficult for cybersecurity professionals to catch all the vulnerabilities and keep track of all the threats. The techniques of hackers definitely are changing rapidly and becoming more sophisticated. I recently read that hackers are utilizing AI, and this is called one of them is called a polymorphic attack, and this poses a significant challenge because I believe that with as these types of attacks are morphing, they avoid detection from the traditional security solutions as well. It's very evident that securing a digital organization has become an uphill task for the CISO and all security professionals alike. I think the CISO role needs to evolve to be able to keep up with this new normal. To build a security organization that positions itself as a strategic integrated partner of business. I think the CISO role will need to evolve beyond this traditional technologist and guardian role to include a more strategy and influencer role as well. I think this will in turn create a culture of shared ownership of cyber risk. So there's an alignment between business and the risk in the organizations. So as a CISO, protecting a security organization or a digital security organization, I think there are 5 top things that you should prioritize. Strategy, you should definitely have a strategy that ties into the business objectives and goals to ensure alignment. You should ensure you prioritize and protect your most critical assets, all the while having a good visibility of third-party relationships. Digital transformation comes with a lot of third-party relationships and partnerships, and you have to have your eye on this. You cannot lose sight of this. Number 2, best practices. You need to deploy best practices that work for you as an organization. I don't believe in reinventing the wheel. Learn from organizations that have been there, that have done that, that have that have had successes and have success stories. Organizations with mature digital transformation processes. It would be good to learn of them, to see what they have done in their space, and then piggyback off them or get learnings from there to be able to move yours as well. Invest in robust systems. With all that I said previously about the sophistication of attacks, the sophistication of the threat landscape, and sophistication of the cyber criminal as well, and the interconnectedness, you need to invest in technologies that you are sure would secure and protect your assets. Skilled personnel. I think that's like a unicorn in the cybersecurity circles, especially probably in this part of the world. A lack of expertise would be one of the most significant barriers to achieving a secure digital transformation process. So ensure that you are investing in skilled personnel. You can start from the bottom, and when I say that, I mean partner with universities, get fresh graduates, train them, expose them to the necessary experiences that they need, simulations, cyber wars, take them on trainings, and build them up, and then build their skills so that you can train and keep such personnel. I think a very important of the CISO's role in guarding as a digital security company would be communication and awareness. Currently, we've spoken about how we are all working from home and is the new normal. We have all become the frontline defense of cybersecurity in our organization, because we now have to deal with whatever attacks come in, and we have to make sure that we are keeping up with our cyber hygiene and our cyber defense. So communication here is key. You need to recognize and educate the colleagues with the risk associated in a digital transformation. The C-suite in particular needs to be given the necessary visibility into the evolving risk landscape. Entire employee base needs to understand that they are the foremost defense in cybersecurity. So this is the time where awareness and communication is key, is key, is key. I can't say that enough. So the future of the CISO, where is the CISO going to end up? Gartner says CISOs must be leaders for digital transformation. I agree. As cyber risks grow and evolve with the rapid technological advancements, so will the demands on the CISO and security professionals. They therefore need to position themselves to be instrumental in helping the business achieve its goals. Instead of impeding innovation for fear of increased cyber threats, they should be at the charging line, leading the innovation and leading the quest for digital transformation. A few things I think the CISO can do is to be a strategic contributor to the organization, build a proactive business aligned security organization, partner business leaders instead of becoming a roadblock, as they often see us, unfortunately. Invest in communication and collaboration to get the necessary buy-in for security initiatives. I think this is very crucial. As you get closer to the business and understand what they do, what different business functions do, I think it gives you a better view of the risks that they are encountering in their space. It gives you a better view of the critical data they have in their space, where that critical data sits, and even the impact should that data face should that data get exposed. Okay, so more and more CISOs need to participate in crucial business decisions and are reporting outside of IT. They need to report outside of IT. The traditional role is being lost as the CISO evolves and as the companies evolve with digital transformation too as well. It's resulting in more authority and influence being invested in the CISO as well. So how does the new CISO evolve? I think there are 4 phases of the modern CISO: the strategist and the advisor. These are the new roles that are coming, as opposed to the old roles of the guardian and the technologist. So I'll talk a bit about the strategist. The strategist is basically a mindset and language change from security and compliance to focus more on risk, to give the company a competitive edge, to help with revenue growth, to help with business expansion. The CISO now has to partner with business to align business and information security strategies so that there's no disparity there. It has to capture the value of security investments to be able to safeguard the information enterprises' assets, show a deep business knowledge, and provide business-centric advice on how risk management can help. Like I said, give competitive advantage, ensure revenue growth, ensure business expansion. CISO also needs to institute strategic governance that prioritizes information security investments. After all, information assets are the crown jewels of any organization these days. And also you need to ensure that security and business resources and budgets are fully aligned. So this is how the CISO is evolving into a strategist from being just a technologist or a guardian. I think the CISO also needs to become an advisor. You need to understand the implications of the new and emerging threats vis-a-vis the digital transformation that has occurred in your organization. Help identify cyber risks that arise as the business advances towards new strategies. As an advisor, you need to drive the organization to continuously improve its security decision-making and risk mitigation capabilities. You need to understand the organization needs to focus, whether organization needs to focus cyber threats and create a risk-based strategic roadmap to align cybersecurity efforts with the corporate risk appetite so that they are in sync. Advisors need to enlist, educate, engage, and align executive stakeholders to increase security awareness. So basically get buy-in from the executive stakeholders. The CISO cannot walk away from their previous roles of the technologist and the guardian. They still are the technologists, they still are the guardian, and as the technologists, they still need to guide, design, develop deployment of secure technical architectures. They need to ensure architecture designs are flexible, extendable to meet the future business needs. And of course, they need to develop and maintain security policies and standards that the organization should adhere to. As the guardian role, they need to be in charge to monitor the effectiveness of whatever security program they are running, the processes and controls. Monitor the processes that safeguard the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data and drive the overall security program. And also you need to measure. They also measure and report on information security risk. This is to keep stakeholders informed and meet compliance and regulatory requirements. So yes, they still play their traditional roles of guardian and technologists, but now the CISO needs to evolve into more of a strategist and an advisor in the organization as well. I believe the CISO role will continue to grow and gain respect. Definitely, the CISO will become more of an enabler and much less of a disabler as people see us. But I think to do this, it's imperative that they develop communication strategies and plan for continuous stakeholder engagement, as well as education. Focus on your most important mission, that is protecting your critical assets, preserve customer and user trust, prevent damage to your environment, and all the while ensuring compliance. They'll need to push for consolidation of IT security vendors and tools, which will in turn reduce the operational complexity in the environment. The CISO becomes a key driver in the journey of a strategic security organization when they can successfully, one, imbue a shared sense of responsibility for cyber risk. That is, cyber risk concerns all of us. It is all our responsibility. And also provide the necessary guidance on how leaders and employees can meet their risk-related responsibilities. I think this is very important. So, with all that I've said, the CISO role definitely has to evolve and is evolving. I think you are evolving, the CISO role is evolving from becoming the Chief Information Security Officer to the Chief Influence Security Officer. And the CISO would definitely emerge as one of the major players in the digital transformation organizations. Thank you. It's a privilege to be part of such an August gatherings. Like Pooja said, we'll take questions at the end. I want to encourage everybody to be safe, adhere to the protocols, wear your mask, wash your hands, sanitize, and keep safe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. I think you've thrown a light on the new normal, and I think digital transformation, as you said, is the key. And I fully agree with you that it's a tough time for every industry, but I'm sure that this time shall pass soon. So, and I think I really like the statement when you said that people have put on weight. So I'm sure once the life is normal, they're going to reduce it very fast as well. So thank you so much, Jacqueline. And so our next speaker is Mr. Rafael Narezi, CIO, Digital Transformer and Cybersecurity, Wise Energy Europe. So who will be giving an insight on opportunities, risk and challenges in the new innovation landscape. So ladies and gentlemen, let's hear from Rafael Narezi.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Today, we're definitely going to be talking about opportunities and risks during this kind of a crisis on the cybersecurity aspect as well. I'm just waiting to get the sharing my screen with you guys here. So just 1 second. So that's thank you again for the opportunity. Let me share again and start again. So my name is Rafael. I have a very extensive background on cybersecurity, but as I think my colleague was describing before, there is a kind of a transformation happening at the moment, and I think that is I see this COVID-19 as a huge opportunity for all of us, right? So I break down in 5 topics. It's going to be very short presentation and direct, but how we transform those risks into more opportunity. So COVID-19, I know that is a big incident around the world, but it's kind of a wake-up call for all of us. Well, one is how do we make senior management to buy in, right? How do we make sure that we can secure investment? How do we keep the hardware safe since that you transition to be entirely digital? How do we keep everything, safe? We must think as hackers as well, right? So that's the same mindset. Agile, yes, isn't something new. It's something new for the board or the old generation that hasn't been adopt into this new fundamental principle. And I'm gonna definitely share to you guys how this has impact the profit for any organization. And also how we become more people, more kind of empowering the people and not become a blocker for the people to work, right? So I consider what happened, not in the same scale. It's like a Chicxulub. So Chicxulub was the asteroid that hits the Earth and killing probably, I think, if I'm not wrong, 70% of the entire dinosaurs, right? Of course, we don't need to compare into that scale, but what happened with the COVID-19 is become a kind of a critical front for the business survival. So organizations that has invested in technology will be better those ones that was considering technology as a cost. So for me, was a privilege to be able, when we decide to send all our workers to work remotely, we were ready at the day one. We didn't have to plan. I didn't have to train my users. I didn't do anything. They were ready from the day one. Because the principle of our organization was allowing employees to work anywhere, everywhere. So as we can see, it's not the strongest species that survives, not the most intelligent that survives. Is that those ones that are most adapted to change. That is provided by Charles Darwin, right? So that's a good message for us, is we need to be adaptable to the circumstances that we are moving. So key findings for you, since that we started this crisis on coronavirus, and this is the hot topic, but I think we should concentrate on the positive aspect for sure, because I only see opportunities. So this is a Kaspersky research. They did a research based on, I think it was in June or May, end of May. And the key findings, if you consider, is 73% of workers never receive IT security awareness training. 55% of users never had all the kind of a toolkit to be work in the way they want. So we are talking about half of the globe, right? In that perspective, wasn't ready to work. And how do we protect? How do we keep everything safe? How do we move to a digital economy? If the technology always becomes as the kind of a burden of a huge cost control or IT cost, right? And I think we have to transition from IT as a cost center to be IT innovation center, to be IT front business center, for the IT or the technology team to provide answers or solutions for new business. And that's where we are at the moment, right? So when I was saying about agile methodology or agile mindset, that reflects what's happened in the profit market share. Microsoft, Amazon, that has embraced agile, thinking about the customer, thinking about the user experience for my customer, has created a huge impact in the market share versus those ones that is still with the dinosaur mindset on the profit only. So that's a very clear, message, for us to think about it, how things are changing in that perspective. So technology or agility becomes a competitive advantage for us to sustain the business.
Hello, Mike.
Oh, sorry. Hello. I think someone comes to talk. And I think why CIO must think like hackers in the COVID-19 crisis. Why we have to consider, because hackers, they don't have too much time. They have to be adaptive. They have to unpuzzle or solve problems in order to get the what they are after. I'm not saying for us to become like the bad hackers, but the mindset of the hackers should be adaptive, should be flexible. And I think for us, in the right moment, we can use this kind of a mindset in our favor as opportunity as always. So we're talking about security, fundamental security or reduce the risk. What about if you reduce the needs of your IT team to change passwords? I mean, I imagine most of you guys, the majority of IT help desk tickets that generate, majority, one of the top, will be changing password. Well, why we don't give the power to the user to do it? And at the same time, we gain something beneficial that is enabling two-factor authentication. Today, my company, we don't need the IT team to change passwords anymore. The users can do themselves. So what we are saving here, we are first reducing the risk because my entire company by default is enabling two-factor authentication. Second, we are adding efficiency and saving money because I don't have to spend too much time of my department, my technical department, to reset passwords. That's something very basic. And the most important is if we have executives traveling during the weekend, that used to be before, or working from home, once again, they can do themselves the work of a changing password. The average cost saving per user today of just changing password is $420. So it's quite a lot for you to be considering, right? Companies that are approaching this are reducing their cost, adding more efficiency on the team to concentrating in better projects in the technology department. I think what we are here to, right? What I think the CIO becomes more a vision. So first, we are here to establish the vision, inspire the change, making sure people can change and follow us and following everything. Create a fellowship, embrace changes is good for everyone. Not everyone thinks the same. Sometimes people don't like change. Developing relationship, making sure that we can do together, better together always. Getting most of out of people. So how we make sure people can help us to drive what we are trying to drive. And pursue the same purpose or instilling the common purpose. What is our mission? What we are trying to accomplish together? I think those are the questions that I think on the leadership role becomes essential to transform organization, keep us safe, and be ready for the new normal that is going to be. So that's my presentation today. Open for questions. I think probably is going to be the end, but thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Rafael. I mean, I must say that that's an eye opener. And apart from the risk and the challenges, we all can see that a lot of opportunities in this new innovation landscape. And as you rightly said, that we need to be adaptable. And I really got scared with the dinosaur story. So, but I think it's a very relevant example, I must say. Thank you so much once again, Rafael. So moving to our next speaker, Deputy General Manager from GC Net, Mr. Carl Saki, who is also a president of ISACA Accra. Carl is going to help us in understanding the COVID-19 cybersecurity landscape. So over to you, Carl. And Carl is just sharing the screen. I request the technical team to please help Carl to share the screen.
Don't worry, I'm here.
Oh, wow. Welcome once again to you.
Thank you.
Over to you, Carl.
Thank you, thank you. All right. So where do we start? All right, so good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And yes, I hope you've been having a good time. All right, so today I'm just going to talk, the next few minutes, we're going to look at the new cybersecurity landscape and the way forward, basically from COVID-19. And I know that most of the presenters, Jacqueline, Raphael, have basically spoken around a few issues that dovetail into mine. So I wouldn't waste time. What we know is that we have the normal challenges of every day where technology is moving very fast. But what we have now is that we're in uncertain times and COVID has even made it worse. And so from a business perspective, you need to look at what you can do to continue staying alive. And I just want to look at it purely from the cybersecurity perspective, but I'll introduce a few governance issues as well. So our normal life, it's now different. These days you have to, with social distancing, we have to wear masks. I've been in my mask the whole day, 6 feet. You can't do many things. Actually in Ghana now you have many companies that are even beginning to shut down. And so clearly the challenge is difficult for every organization. And this is where you sit down and you start looking at it that what is the new norm going to be like? So over the next couple of months, a year, nobody knows actually when we're getting a vaccine or we're getting a cure for COVID. And so how are businesses supposed to move? Now, you hear many companies talking about the issue of digital transformation and so forth. And clearly, we've been put in a time frame now where we need to actually look at how we do business, because you can't stop work. You can't retrench everybody. You have to continue working and deliver value for the shareholders. And so from ISACA's perspective, we looked at one of the 2020 survey. 92% of organizations that were surveyed, the people that were surveyed, said that the threat actors will increase cyber attacks on individuals, and it is happening. And you have 87% rapid shift to work from home increase the risk of data privacy. And our focus on these key things. Clearly, if you take many organizations, many countries, governments woke up one day and decided that we'll stay at home. Yes, stay at home, but businesses still had to work. So banks had to open, other institutions had to continue operating. How are you going to do it if you don't have the ability to do it? And clearly, that's when issues of strategy comes to play. And so we will look briefly at those ones. But then you found out that only 51% were highly confident that their security team were able to detect this. So my focus is, what are some of the things we'd have to put in place to make sure that we can continue operating? Because COVID is not going to go away now. I mean, I'm not a doomsayer, but clearly we just want to face the reality. Because if you take Ghana now, the numbers are going up. The next 10 days, we expect that the numbers will double. That's what the science people are telling us. Are we going to have another lockdown? How do we make that transition? Schools are having issues. And so these are all things that you play. So my presentation is general, but it applies to practically every sector. And so some of the challenges that I faced, well, I mean, there are many different studies, but clearly many organizations are struggling to find qualified professionals. In Ghana, it is no different. And I know that it's the same across the world. Employees are using non-company devices to access the company's network. And listen, if you're working from within a confined space, the office, you are able to clearly put in some protection. But now that you have this issue where people are working from home, how are you able to actually monitor the device? Because the person is connecting through a modem or any of those things, and you actually don't have any control over it. Then your third-party service providers that you have to go over, and the fact that IT still has to make sure that they are able to provide the support from within and without the organization. And then clearly there are funding issues because companies don't have the same, bottomless pit when it comes to money. I mean, you take many organizations where people they need a lot of VPN access. The cost is huge. And so these are things that are affecting them. And then one key thing is the fact that good cybersecurity providers are also not that many. So, it's a big potpourri of challenges, but these are not insurmountable. They are common sense practices that we'll talk about that will help us to get it done. Anyway, so from the key things we want to look at is endpoint protection. That is the basic thing. Whatever we do from the COVID perspective, your endpoint is from within the organization, without the organization, or outside the organization. So our pain points, your network security would always be there. It's not going to go away. How do we focus on education and awareness? Because right now, so many organizations, when this thing started, and you read a lot of reports, everybody trying to understand what the COVID virus comes up with. And people were actually clicking on many different URLs, which were not the correct ones. So something to do with WHO, for instance. We have so many variants of WHO URLs, which are not good. How do you prevent the malware from running on a particular PC once the PC is outside the office? Removable media, because now the person is working from outside the house and probably needs to do things. How do you look at the mobile and home working issues, remote or telecommuting? These challenges will continue being there, but this is when we have to start thinking outside the box, and we need to put in pragmatic steps to make sure that things are done. And so the key things that businesses will be talking about, and this is general, there's no institution that would say that what I'm talking about here does not apply to it. So you can take a bank, a telco, hospital, or medical facility. Clearly, you're looking at your enterprise security management, you're looking at the security of your applications, you're looking at the fact that APTs will continue being there and would exist. You're looking at the fact that we need to start thinking about the encryption. Data at rest. How do we do cloud encryption? What cybersecurity services are we employing? Do we properly have risk management and assurance frameworks in place? Do we have the qualified people to do it? How do we make sure that our GRC, governance, risk and compliance policies are in place? Are even the boards aware of what has to be done? And so I separated these two. These two things I thought that we have to focus on: risk management and the value delivery. A lot of money has been spent on technology. And in a time like COVID, you are not now going to say that I'm now going to continue investing. How do I make sure that I utilize what I have effectively? Now, if you don't have any policies, you don't have anything in place, then clearly you have a big problem. But for those organizations that have done something, the focus now should be on how do we look at things from a risk perspective, because COVID actually changes our risk profile, whether you like it or not. The issue about the value is that we need to actually make sure that whatever we've invested, we're using it properly and we are actually making a lot more out of it. And so you find out that you are not reinventing the wheel, but you're actually looking at things more holistically. Risk management means that focus on the most important issues, most important items. And so I talked about these ones. So this, you can look at it carefully later on. But so from a risk perspective, I zoomed in on the business continuity. And ladies and gentlemen, business continuity in the sense that COVID means that with COVID, are you going to say that your business is not going to operate? You certainly would continue to operate, right? And so you want to focus on, how do I make sure that I can recover my IT operations? How do I make sure that proper business continuity exists? So here I'm looking at the people and process issues. Does my supply chain stop because there's COVID? These things do affect every organization. How about the security? How do I deal with crisis? COVID actually brought about a crisis. So I remember when the government said that you needed to get the sticker and then the pass to go out. There was a bit of a crisis because many organizations were not prepared. Which organization is supposed to, what do you consider to be essential? What is not essential? Have we looked at data recovery, disaster recovery plans? Have we looked at the proper business continuity plan and tested it? Clearly, not many organizations tested their business continuity plan, but COVID has made sure that now we all know what the state of our business continuity plans are, and we're able to put it into practice and make sure that it's working. So clearly, if you want to look at things from the COVID perspective, the pandemic perspective, business continuity management, if you don't have it at all, then clearly you have a big problem. But now we know, because we've moved from a situation where we just did piecemeal tests, we've done some stuff, to a case where we've done full BCM for many organizations that have been operating. And I know that many organizations did that. And so business continuity, the focus for me is that it has to become a way of life, where we now have to start doing it on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. Start thinking about what the impact and the risk of anything that is going on. So from the pandemic perspective, we know that in a few days' time, in a few weeks' time, are we going to have a scenario where the government is going to lock down again because the numbers are going up? And if it does happen, how are we going to be able to deal with it? What strategies have we put in place to make sure that we can continue operating? Now, it also means that, let's not forget that all these things mean that you are putting it in a certain context that should, what happens if a staff member, a breach takes place from a staff member's device at home, or from within the organization, because suddenly we've opened up, are we doing enough testing? So these plans will continue doing it. And that's why you look at the focus on the exercise and maintain. We need to keep doing it. But the important thing is that it should be a way of life. It's not because we have COVID period and it only applies to only technical people. It is an organizational perspective that we have to look at it from. And so from a VCM perspective, the things we want to talk about, and I think that we know what business continuity management is, but here from the pandemic perspective, the key considerations that what needs to be available, is it everything in organization, or we focus on the important things? And that's why I said that look at it from the risk perspective. What are the things we want to focus on when it comes to the reliability of services, or I don't know what you want to look at? What do we need to recover? Okay, so for a bank, you want to make sure that your core banking application, your ATMs and so forth, the telcos, now this is a good time for telcos. I mean, I really wish I was working for a telco now, because it's the cocoa season for them. They're making a lot of money because everybody needs data. And so for the telcos, whatever they need to make sure that users have the ability to connect, one, but also to be able to buy data and so forth. They want to make sure that it is working. And for that, that's when they sit down and look at the business continuity planning to look at what is the golden egg, or is it, yes, you're protecting the golden egg. Make sure that that always continues working. What are the things that need to be available, and when do those things have to be available? What has to be reliable? What do I even consider to be reliable? How do I measure it? And then the recoverability needs of the business. These things would actually help us to focus on proactive and preventive measures. And that's what cybersecurity, particularly in this time, is, because you take all the reports so forth, so McKinsey, EY, KPMG, Deloitte, you take many of the other ones, NIST, CIS, they are all talking about organizations taking proactive and preventive measures to make sure that there are no breaches. Even WHO, you go to all the organizations and they talk about the same thing. So from a business continuity perspective, we also want to focus on these things. And it is the only way you can get your business going. And so if you look at it from that perspective, back to this, then you want to make sure that you have a proper risk management framework for cybersecurity. And here, look at your threat environment, nation states, because clearly organizations are open, so what I use open advisedly. The fact that things that hitherto would not, transactions or staff processes that would not take place outside the organization, now we're doing it from outside the organization, okay? And so you have administrators who are working from home, connecting to sensitive systems, VPNs. But are the VPNs, have we done the proper configuration? Clearly, nation states, the actors come from those places. You also have the criminals, because now you're doing stuff that hitherto you will not be able to do it. Your activists and even the insiders, because people now are doing things without the full, sometimes without the proper supervision. Your security environment, you need to make sure that your proactive controls are in place, which are preventive, detective, and mitigation measures. These things you can't do away with. And this framework applies to practically everything. And this is something that we should all have as admins or technical people. We should always be looking at what are the preventive controls, because now your risk profile has changed drastically. The fact that this pandemic has changed, it's affected the whole world, and everybody is focusing on making sure the business continues to run. And so sometimes people are actually taking measures that they normally would not take, because my competitor is doing it. My competitor is able to work from home. All the key people are working from home, so I have to do it. But I probably haven't looked at things properly. And so your risk drivers, clearly, you have to focus on your exposure. You have to look at what the probability, severity, and correlation are. This is more from a risk management perspective. And then clearly you want to start looking at quantify your risk, okay? And this is when the role of the board comes in. So these things we talk about when it comes to the COVID-19 and its cybersecurity implications. You can't, it's not a technical issue. It is actually a board issue. It is a governance issue. It is technical, but the board needs to own it, because whatever happens affects the organization. If there's a breach, it is the organization that suffered. It is not the technical people who are affected. It is the business that has been affected, and it has reputational damages and so many things that go with it. Clearly, the technical people, yes, they suffer for it, but then at the end of the day, the business is the one that suffers the most. And so some of the keys, and these are just, they are not prescriptive, ladies and gentlemen, but these are just the best practice stuff. We need to be able to put in place measures to help us identify our internal and external risks, okay? And this means that the things that we have to do, so your vulnerability assessment, penetration testing, looking at guidelines, so there are recommendations, what the fixes have to be. We need to be able to do it. We need to be able to communicate this risk properly and in a manner that is not technical. A lot of the time, the focus is on technical. And because this cybersecurity is no longer supposed to be considered from just a technical perspective, from a business perspective, let's do it that way. How do we, and what are we supposed to protect? We're protecting the assets, the data, and the assets include the people. And so if people now are doing a lot of telecommuting, are we putting in place things like 2FA, two-factor authentication, so that now you can't even log into a system without two-factor authentication? Now, I'm happy that, like if you take the Bank of Ghana directive for the cybersecurity directive, for instance, it put in place certain prescriptive measures. And this actually, you can leverage it for all other organizations. And it helps us to be able to do this protection. It helps us to focus on the detective measures that have to be put in place. How do we quickly detect and respond? Because there's one thing detecting, is another thing responding. Now, if you don't detect on time, clearly then you're at a bigger risk than anybody else. And then the ability to recover. Those are the things that the organizations want to focus on. And so my keys to cyber risk management are these 5 things: identify, protect, detect, respond, and eventually the final one, to be able to recover. Now, to conclude, ladies and gentlemen, I think that I leave you with 7 trends that we'll have to embrace in 2019 with the COVID-19 in 2020. Yes, it's a bit of a mouthful. Risk and resilience, you can't overly protect, but there has to be a balance somewhere, because you can't throw money. There are common sense things. So one of the most important things, educate, 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 educate. It helps us to be able to look at things properly, but it makes people aware. And that's one of the things that's going to help protect the organization. Security disciplines would converge, and clearly we're doing ISO 27000, we're doing ISO 31000, some are doing, yes, they all converge, because the focus at the end of the day is to make sure that the business is working. We need to secure the supply chain. Things that originally were doing within the organization are now being done outside the organization. And so we need to focus on the supply chain. If the supply chain is weak, you know, they say you're only as strong as the weakest link. And so let's focus on what the weak link is. Let's look for people with the requisite security and managerial skills. These are important things. Yes, you can't be looking for people in times like this, but you also can. The key thing is that business is no longer the same, and it will never be the same. So you have to focus on it. Let us embrace adaptive security approach. You know, adaptive in the sense that it's, apart from just the technology, you're looking at the human side of things. You are also looking at, you know, let's start looking at new ways of doing it, artificial intelligence. I'll give you a typical example. Your domain controller is no longer going to be able to manage somebody's PC once the person is outside the premises. How are you going to make sure that you are able to detect and respond to any, let's say, malware, not only malware, but some of those actors that they will get onto those devices, assuming the person, because in the office, the person, you control where the person can log on to, which website the person can go on to, blah, blah, blah. But once the person is outside the home, where you have no control, how are you going to be able to make sure that you protect the device? And so you probably start looking for some of those agents that can run on a PC that have some intelligence built in here. And I don't want to mention names, but there are agents, particularly from some of these security companies, that help you to do that. We need to extend security for digital business, and that is something that has to be a way of life for us. We will have to do it. And the most important one, and the last one, let's pursue real data security. You know, our security paradigm has to change. The most important thing is the data. So if you can focus on the data, it helps you know what to focus on. Because the data can be on my phone, it can be on my laptop, it can be on, you know, whatever it is. Once we know what the data is, then we are able to properly protect it. I believe that these little things, and these are, I just call them my little nuggets of COVID-19 best practice. I hope that you find it useful. The slides will be shared to you, and I'm available to take a few questions. Thank you very much.
So, Carl, thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
And I believe during this pandemic, it is very important to understand the cybersecurity landscape, and
yes,
must take every single step to ensure that the safety of our organization is very much there. And
correct.
I really appreciate your 7 cybersecurity trends, which you just shared with us. I think it's very useful. And as you rightly said, that the key is educate, educate, and educate. Am I right?
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you so much, Carl. Moving to our next speaker. So as I said, that the time is changing and we must understand the CISO perspective in these changing times. So to throw light on this, we have our next speaker, Mr. C.K. Bruce, CEO, Innovare, who will be speaking on CISO perspective in this changing time. So over to you, Bruce.
Thank you so much, Pooja. Thank you so much indeed. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's quite a privilege to be speaking on the same platform with all the previous speakers. I think they've shared quite a lot of very pertinent points, which I am going to build on. And I think, I hope we are all going to be able to assimilate all the things that we've spoken about, and we are going to absorb. Okay. Jackie really explained a lot about the change that has gone on, with this new COVID. Okay. It was interesting for her to say that she had put on weight. I mean, so have I, actually. There's been so much change. There's been so much change. And, right now we have the COVID way of doing things, i.e. now we are having this conference on Zoom. I call some of this my Zoom dressing because I'm wearing a shirt, but if I stand up, it's a different issue altogether. Everything is different, okay? Organizations are dealing with very tough issues at the moment, okay? Very tough issues, all different issues. And one of the key dangers is that in the midst of all this, cybersecurity threats might be underestimated. Cybersecurity threats might be overlooked, okay? So it's important that the CISO, gathers themselves strongly to be able to look at some of the things that they are should be addressing. Okay, so we see that the CEO might be concerned with the general business downturn. Okay, a lot of the organizations have lost the business. Strategic direction have been derailed. CFO, CIO, diminishing revenue inflows, financial loss, the CIO, the demand for digital innovation. There's been a lot of change from the digital perspective, okay? Again, Jackie spoke a lot about that, and it has changed a lot. And which I will mention a bit later, that have we actually fully prepared the organizations for these changes? Okay, we'll talk about that. And then the HR, downsizing of workforce, and this is quite unfortunate, okay? A lot of organizations are being forced to let some people go. That has a huge impact on them personally and on the organizations and the whole business environment as a whole, okay? A lot of people are being affected from all angles, okay? One of the research that I read about people being asked to be, people who are being retrenched, is that it could create a level of disaffection amongst some of the IT savvy people, okay? And that could generate some level of disgruntled people with some cyber skills who could use these skills in the wrong way, okay? Chief Marketing Officer, diminished market demand, difficult business environment, okay? So all these are big concerns that the other C-suite members have. And it might result in that the focus on cybersecurity, the focus on information security requirements might be diminished and might not be focused well. The diagram we are seeing is the CISO responsibility architecture, okay? So in general, these are the things these are the areas, these are the general programs that the CISO would have, normally would have to embark on, okay? I'm structuring my presentation, my short presentation, based on some of the things within these program areas and how the CISO should be responding with the changes that are occurring within these specific areas. Okay, so the first area is the security operation, okay, which translates in organizations to be the SOC, okay? It's the technical, the sexy part of information security. It's the part of information security that kind of gets a lot of focus, okay? There's a lot going on in terms of the attacks that are coming in, okay? I mentioned briefly earlier about the evolution, the development of the adversaries. We have people being entrenched, leaving their jobs, okay? Some of them have skills. In general, even cybercrime is changing over the last decade or so, okay? Gone are the days that we were looking at a single lone person who is sitting somewhere, maybe without a focus on financial gain, okay? This has completely evolved into having groups of hackers working together to really make a lot of money. And seriously, the cybersecurity landscape is very, very dangerous indeed. Okay, we have all these people trying to attack our systems. Okay, there's this warning from Interpol, and this is quite unprecedented in the fact that yes, some of these safety checklists that Interpol released are things that we're already looking at. But the fact of the matter is that because of COVID, there's been a significant increase in attacks, significant, okay? I also read a report also from Interpol about the level of attack on mobile money in Africa, okay? The use and the rise of the use of mobile money in Africa is unprecedented, and comparatively, no other continent comes close, okay? Unfortunately, it does bring opportunities for these cyber criminals, and they are not wasting their time at all in trying to attack all these system points that are available to them. So these opportunities are rising because of COVID, and as I said, the focus by management on other things, the focus on our cyber defenses and the support to the CISO might be diminished, okay? So SecOps is crucial, okay? But one of the things that I would like to mention is the fact that SOC implementations and SecOps in general, we are good in implementing the technology. But to be honest, to make it a total solution, the analysis and the processes behind the technology are critical, are very, very critical. And that actually enables the total solution to work in tandem, okay? So one of the things that, we need to take cognizance of, that if you haven't seen an increase in attacks and in attempts onto your network, or you haven't seen any at all, it's not that it's not there, it is because that you are not detecting it, okay? Because even some huge global organizations. I remember one who had a hacker roaming about in within their system for 6 months without them detecting. Okay, so it is very, very critical that the total solution around the SecOps, not focusing only on the technology, but looking very much on the processes and the critical analysis of the information that is being churned out by the various CMs and the other technologies that we have is critical, is very vital. Okay, so SecOps kind of gives management a false sense of security. They feel that because the technology is there, then we are safe. Then the focus can be elsewhere. And this is where the CISO really has to use the phrase that Jackie used, the Chief Influence Security Officer techniques, to be able to influence and be able to drive these points home to the C-suite members. The other area under the CISO responsibility is risk management, okay? And sometimes it baffles me that organizations don't take risk management very seriously, okay? It is strange that some organizations are ready to make very serious, heavy decisions without any risk assessment. And that really puts the organization at huge risk, okay? So risk management is an enabler, a key enabler for decision making, okay? Now, we need to strengthen the control environment. You can only strengthen you can only achieve that by having a strong just having a risk management capability, okay? It is very critical. Within this changing environment, within this changing times, it is now that risk management even becomes more critical, okay? One of the areas which is changing very rapidly is where the workforce is working from, the rise in teleworking, okay? Now, a lot of organizations are also implementing teleworking controls in a vacuum, okay, without any proper risk assessment, picking on controls from other environments or from generic policies and implementing them. The danger is that it could be too high or it could be too low, okay? The other risk from this approach is that when you have controls that are stringent, more stringent than can be complied with by your workforce, it might end up in them not doing it at all. Nothing happens. So in the final analysis, there's actually no controls whatsoever. Okay. Carl spoke a bit about teleworking and some of the dangers that risks that exist in teleworking. And it cannot be overemphasized. Okay, the opportunity of cyber criminals gaining access to data, gaining access to conduits into the organization itself is just simply myriads. Okay, so many different ways in which cyber criminals can leverage on the teleworking environment to attack an organization. Okay, so there's a strong need to have proper risk assessments within the teleworking environment, proper checklists to understand the various environments the various home environments that your workers are working in at home. Okay, it's very critical. Then the other points from a risk management perspective that is very important in creating the right environment is the risk reporting. Okay, now we have organizations, yes, a lot of organizations, well, in the financial services sector, for instance, have implemented the ISO 27001 standard, and yes, risk management processes within it. Okay, but it seems as if the one of the critical elements, the risk reporting, doesn't seem to be part of the delivering process. Okay, part of the process of the risk management that should be done and done well. Okay, if the workforce, if the staff are not aware, are not fully understanding of the risks that the organization faces, the level of compliance might be difficult. Okay, the level of compliance might be very, very low. Okay, the understanding of the nature of the controls and what the controls are meant for might not be fully adhered to. Okay, and that leads me to the governance section of the CISO's architecture, the frameworks, the policies. Okay, again, without the proper risk reporting, these elements might not be fully optimized and fully utilized. Okay. Now, I have made it a point, in discussing with some of my colleagues, that it is the organizations that have adopted frameworks that would be able to traverse this COVID era. They would be able to come out on the other side relatively, okay. It's essential that the structure, the organizational, the well-organized environment, works when there's such a crisis, okay? So the need for the adoption of frameworks is critical for organizations to be able to move across these crisis times, okay? So is the policy documents. The policy documents are supported by the risk management process, and as there's changes in the environment, obviously some of the policies are going to change. Some of the policies are going to be affected, okay? How is that effectively being done, okay? That leads us to the education and training. Again, my previous speakers have all mentioned and spoken about education and training and awareness, okay? Now, to prepare the workforce, to enable them to be compliant with the various controls, the various behavioral cultures, the various policies that they have in place, okay? It can only stem from awareness, training, and education. That's the only way that we can properly prepare the workforce to be able to do what they are supposed to be doing properly. We have people now working from home. They are not within the corporate environment for them to be observed, for them to be cajoled to be able to respond to certain controls that they have to adhere to, okay? If the environment was not strong in the office setting, then it's definitely not going to be strong at home. It means that the culture, the behavioral culture, the organizational culture has not been fully ingrained within the people, and that could be a very, very strong risk. Okay. So these are some of the things that the CISO would have to be looking at, would have to ensure that it is being rolled out completely. Okay. Again, I like what Jackie said about the chief influence security officer. Okay. These are the times that the chief information security officer would have to be influencing everybody. Okay. So just to arrive at my final thoughts, the role of the CISO has always been crucial. But in these times, it is even more crucial because of the opportunities, because of the environment, because of the way that people might be more focused on other things, and they might be leaving the information security, cybersecurity requirements on the back burner. Okay, it becomes essential for the interpersonal skills of the CISO to come out strongly, to be able to engage with both the workforce and the board and the C-suite, the executive management, to be able to strengthen governance, to be able to strengthen the compliance with the various controls, to be able to strengthen the whole control environment. And that is very, very critical. And those are some of the perspectives, some of the strong changes that the CISO would have to be able to achieve. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Bruce. I think the new norm, opportunity, risk, new challenges during this time, and the CISO perspective. The key things what we have covered, I think this is brilliant. And I must say, Bruce, that risk management, security governance plays a very important role, as you rightly said. And I must not miss the important part, which is a Zoom dressing. So thank you so much. With this, we come to an end of our presentation, and it's time to move ahead with the Q&A. And I can see that there are questions in our chat box. So I will take one by one, and I hope all our speakers are ready there to answer the queries. So we have our first question for Carl. So, and Alexander wants to know that, first of all, I think we must appreciate all the speakers, because I can see a lot of compliments for all the speakers who are there. So he's asking to you that, do you think that there is also a need to consider a third-party management? This is because the third-party management has been a major source for most of the security breaches. So what do you want to say on that, Carl?
Okay, so Pooja, thank you very much. Now, when it comes to third-party management, I think that the important thing to remember is that third-party management is a key tenet of the governance, okay, of any business. And it is actually one of the key things the board of directors has to focus on. You know, third-party management, once you outsource a service, is technically an extension of your business. So it's a service that you probably consider as not your core operation, but it's something that is doing. So somebody is providing a network service for you, or any service. Let's use that as an example. You need to treat that entity the same way you treat your organization. So whatever audit you perform, you have to perform the same audit on that place. And it's one of the things that would have to go into the SLAs when you're signing the SLAs with third-party contractors, that they'll have to abide by those tenets that your organization abides by. Otherwise, don't go into it. Because if you don't put that in place, when a risk happens, nobody is looking at the fact that the breach took place from a third-party organization. They know that your organization suffered the breach. Now, I'll give you examples of, let's say, you see the NSA and some of those places where they've had breaches take place. They identify that the breach took place from a third-party organization, but it still affected them, and they always go back and put in remedial measures. We don't need to get to that place. Let's actually learn from best practice and put in place measures that when we sign these contracts with third-party organizations, we put in place the clauses that allow us to mandate them, the security controls they have to abide with. If it's a sensitive service, you need to be able to screen them. And so if I have to, I'm recruiting staff from my organization and I need to get permission from the police, I need to go do background check. a service provider needs to have the same background check. I hope this clarifies things.
Yes, so you want to say that even if you want to go ahead, we have to take a lot of checks in between. Am I right?
Yes, you need to put in place those checks. It's very important.
Right. Which plays a very important role. Otherwise, the breaches are going to happen time and again if you don't have.
They won't stop. Yes.
On the safer side, then probably we should not. If we cannot follow the process, then we should not go ahead with the third party.
You should not go ahead with it. Yes, you shouldn't.
Correct. So Alexander, I hope that you get the answer of your question. Thank you so much, Carl. I may come back to you once again. So we have another question wherein the speaker name is not specified, but so the question is, what are the principles of risk management and what are the elements of a risk management? So I request Bruce to answer this question because I heard he was covering the topic on risk management. So Bruce, please help with this answer.
Yes, sure. Well, risk management is trying to uncover what are the possible issues with any activity. Okay, I'm trying not to use the word risk. Okay, basically, we need to be able to understand that once we set an objective, once we agree that this is a certain direction, then what are the possible harm that can come about, which would not enable us to achieve our objective. Okay, I'm trying to put risk management very, very simply. Okay, so that's what risk management is. I mean, it's trying to find out what can be an obstacle to me achieving a certain objective. And it's critical because obviously, if you do not look at those things before you take a step, okay, for example, you are building a house. You haven't done a check on what are the possible hazards in the area before you build the house. And then you've invested so much, and after doing that investment, then you realize that these things were there, okay, which you could have done something about, okay? So the risk management, the risk mitigation is that identifying a risk and then doing something about it, okay, before you do your investment, okay? So obviously, we need to do risk management before we embark on any activity, okay? And that's why it's so critical in any organization. Before you open a new branch, before you launch a new software, before you even start the new software project, before you purchase some new assets, before you start teleworking, what are the risks? What could go wrong? What are the things that could become a hazard in that direction, okay? So that we can implement controls to ensure that the objective, i.e. the software project, becomes successful, okay? So risk management is a way to ensure that the things that we want to do are successful. I hope that has, given some insight into very, very simply put.
Yes, I think definitely I fully agree with you because I think it's very imperative for every organization to check twice that all the requirements have been fulfilled properly and do the risk analysis, and then only you will get an idea that how you can safeguard yourself if that kind of a situation will come in the future. Am I right, Bruce?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you, Bruce. I may come back to you once again because there's another question for you and Jackie from Alexander. He says that any information, idea, or experience if companies within Africa perform security assessment on telework, telehealth, and other cloud platforms before use. So this is the question for Bruce and Jackie.
From the telework perspective, to be honest, my little experience in dealing with some clients and some organizations is that organizations are rushing into it. They are, well, to be honest, COVID didn't come as a planned activity, as a planned event, okay? It also did spring upon us, okay? But that notwithstanding, I mean, I do feel that some level of a risk assessment could have been done, security assessment could have been done on teleworking before, well, maybe during the transition time of pushing people to start working from home, okay? But no, I haven't had the experience and of that, and a lot of organizations are actually reluctant to go through that process of doing an assessment. In telehealth, no, I don't have that experience at all. Cloud platforms, well, cloud platforms can be tricky in terms of some of people's concerns and fears. That the main fear is that where is my data? Is my data safe? Can somebody get to my data? And that is one of the and who owns the data is one of the fears that people have. But your real fear should be your device, because the type of security that are at some of these data centers, this AWS, Azure, or Google data center, is incredible. And the chances of a data breach happening on the data center side is very minimal. It will actually be easier for the hacker to get to your data through your laptop, not from the data center. Your laptop is your access control on your laptop is more likely. I mean, most of us, we have enabled the single sign-on. The passwords are within our browsers. You just click. Once I have your device, I can gain access to your area on your access to your data. Okay, that's the easiest thing. Okay, your device gets missing. You do not have remote control, remote management on the device. That is the risk. Okay, so in using a cloud service, to be honest, you are safer. Your security requirements is narrowed just to your device. And it's something that once you know what you're doing, you can keep your device safe. You need the extra physical security focus on your device to keep it safe.
Thanks, Bruce. Jackie, you would like to add something? No worries. So we will, okay, Jackie.
Sorry for the delay.
Yeah,
I am here. Yes, I think CK did a brilliant job of answering that. I was just saying, I don't know what I'm going to add following that. But yes, it's largely for the telework, the telehealth, largely uncharted, an uncharted area. I don't think anybody really had the presence of mind or felt it would become an issue to be able to look deeply into it before all this happened. However, I won't rule out the SA space. I don't have any information. I really don't know, to be honest, but I won't rule out the SA space. So Alexander, hey, we can talk later. I mean, I can find out some of these from our other opcos in SA and other places, but not that I know. And I think CK has done quite a good job of answering the cloud question too as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jackie. So I think CK, we have another question for you, Bruce. So, which is from Hayford, and it says that you indicated that organizations that have implemented formal frameworks are more likely to escape unscathed after this pandemic. Are there some empirical evidences emerging at this stage, since some companies have all the formal processes documented but have not really been stressed with uncertainty as we have seen with COVID-19? So, Bruce, what do you want to say on these lines?
Sure, yes. Unscathed, no, I didn't actually say unscathed. I said that, I can't remember the exact words I used, but the point I was trying to drive at is that they would have less of a negative impact. Less of a negative impact. Being totally unscathed, no, because we know that we cannot eliminate risks, okay? We can only reduce, the negative impact. Do we have empirical research on it? No, not yet. The reason I made that assertion is because of the kind of environment, the kind of structured environment that adopting a framework gives you, okay? It gives us the initial workings of trying to ensure compliance with directives, okay? Without a framework, some of these directives, some of these policies trying to be rolled out, we have issues around its compliance, okay? So the fact that you have an organized environment is that you're more likely to have compliance with new directives that are coming out. I did talk about some of the difficulties in some of the support areas of some of the frameworks which are not being rolled out properly from my experience in Ghana, okay? That notwithstanding, at least if we juxtapose two companies, one that has implemented a framework and one that hasn't, at least the one that has would be on a maturity scale of around about 3 or 4. Okay, the one that hasn't would be on a maturity scale of about 1 or 2. Definitely, the one with a higher maturity scale would be able to survive better. And that is the perspective, the angle where I was coming from.
Thanks, Bruce. I think very well said. I must say that. So we have another question from Romeo, which says, corporate governance can no longer provide solutions to current issues without leveraging into the information technology. In this situation, most organizations have not welcomed IT governance as a vital element. And how could this situation be changed so as to provide a more compliant and accountability within the organization, meeting stakeholders' expectations? So I request Rafael to please answer this question. Rafael, we cannot hear you. Okay, can I request Carl to please answer this question?
Okay, thank you. It's an interesting question. The thing about corporate governance or governance and generally, I think that everything technology, as long as it is not owned by the board, and that's why IT governance comes into place. If it's not owned by the board, it becomes a tactical or operational thing. From the strategic perspective, if it's owned at the board, then clearly you pay attention to it. Look, let's look at many organizations. When you take the board, for instance, they're focusing on their financials, they're focusing on maybe HR issues, they focus on risk. But technology has not been there so much, mainly because, well, it's always been technology talk. So we tech people speak tech or geek, and then we're unable to translate it into how it affects the business. And so that's one of the reasons why there's been a challenge there. But the organizations that are able to make that transition, where technology takes center place, so IT governance, where they focus on the 5 thematic areas, so things to do with how technology is aligned to the business. You're looking at the technology delivering the value. You're looking at the risk management issues related to technology. You are focusing on the performance measurement, and you are focusing on resource management. If you're able to put that together, these are the 5 pillars of IT governance anyway. You find out that those organizations are actually high-performing organizations where they tend to be ahead of the curve. Even if they are not ahead of the curve, should anything happen, they actually are able to adapt very quickly because management has proper involvement in whatever technology investments are taking place. They know what the organization is doing. There are people who are responsible for everything, so things to do like the CISO, that's one of the governance professionals you require, and the CIO. These people are all part of the strategic decision-making body, and you're able to harness it. So in the same vein, they're also able to look at if the risks to the organization, so cybersecurity issues, technology risk issues, all the issues that you can take place, they think about it. And in IT governance, one of the final things I want to say here is the fact that it doesn't operate in a vacuum. You operate with frameworks. And so some, risk management framework, technology issues, so you actually follow systematic processes to make sure that the organization is delivering on what it's supposed to do. And at the end of the day, there's value to the shareholders and to all the other stakeholders. And so from a corporate governance perspective, you can only do it if you adopt IT governance. It is happening. If the Bank of Ghana directive is making sure that banks are doing it, but other organizations are also learning from it. The telcos do it, and many organizations are doing it. It's just that it has to be formalized, and that's what is happening now.
So much, Carl. I think very insightful, I must say that. So moving towards the next question, some people have written to me separately. The question is from Hoshem. What is the risk management process? I think Bruce has well explained it, why it is important. So risk management as a topic, we have covered it well. Hoshem, if you need more details, probably you can write back to us and we will surely help you with all the answers. The next question is from Joy, who says that how secure are the devices that employees are using to work from home? So Jacqueline, I would like you to answer this question, although the some part Bruce has. I think I was not audible. Now I think.
Hi.
Yeah, so Jackie, would you be able to answer the question? How secure are the devices that employees are using from work from home?
Well, Joy, I think you have to tell me that. But then again, as an information security department, we are trying to do the very best to make sure that every employee is secure where they're working. Because like I said in my presentation, you now become the first defense of cybersecurity wherever you are sitting. And I think for us, a very quick thing that all organizations need to do for their employees is ensure that they are working on VPN, connecting to the office through VPN. And through that VPN connection as well, they are getting regular updates on their antiviruses and making sure that their cyber hygiene is up to date as well. I think a lot of the things depend on you as the person and what are you doing. Not every attack can come from inside. You can leave your laptop and your kids can go play on it, delete some files, do something that will corrupt some files, do something that will affect some company information. Some company information could be lying around, which will term, and people who are not supposed to be privy to it will see it, which will be termed leakage. So I think you as the employee working from home, the onus is now on you to make sure that you are actually adhering to all the practices or all the rules that your information security team is giving to you, and you are always connecting through VPN to ensure that you are working through a secure connection, and you are also getting the updates that you need to do to protect your machine and the environment in which you're in. Is that okay?
Yes, I think that answers the questions very well. Thank you so much, Jackie. So the next question I want to ask Raphael, if he is there, that Alfred has asked this question, that if a company does not have a CISO, who else should play the role of a CISO? And how can that person gain the trust and confidence of the rest of the organization? So there is another gentleman called Benjamin who has also asked a similar question, who wants to say that what is the best way to manage insider trust, and who also says what is the best way to manage insider trust and in the current state. So I think these 2-3 questions are the same, Rafael. It says that if CISO is not there, who can play the role? Okay, and how can, if he's playing the role, how can he win the trust? So that's the summary of the 3 questions which people would like to ask. So over to you, Rafael.
It is a very hard question, I would say. Who will be accountable for? Who wants to have the head there to be chopped when things fail, right? It is very hard to pick someone in giving certain responsibility that doesn't align for the perspective of career. I think we also cannot say that, for example, many businesses cannot afford, right? So for example, a scenario that we live in Europe is the GDPR, but many companies cannot afford to have, you know, all the requirements for a small business perspective on the GDPR, right? So big companies, fine, medium companies maybe, but small companies, they cannot afford. And what they're gonna do about it, right? I think, look, maybe paying contractors or CISO as a service is another option as well. But you need to have more professional skills in order to control security. Without those, you are putting your entire business at risk. And then it's not point for us to have someone accountable, because we are looking just someone to tick the box to be blamed. And I don't think so that is the culture that we have to build. I think by the way, security is something that is a common benefit for the entire company and common responsibility for the users as well. And I think, look, attribution of CISO or not CISO, we cannot consider just kind of having a CISO or not having a CISO will make things safer. I think will allow us to have a maturity to understand the risks and associate a reduction of the risk in case you have someone with a vision that a CISO can have, right? I think that is the main point. I think in terms of how do I trust people? Well, depending the types of the business that you do, right? If you come from the finance, there is a profile checking that you do, right? I mean, everyone does a profile checking in, for example, in UK when you work for their finance. I come from the finance background, from the banking industry. They keep doing background checks on me every year. That's normal, and you have to be responsible to accept that. But is that the same condition for a small or medium organization? I don't know. Can you afford to continue progressing those background checks and also all the checks that you have for a person? And even though, you know, someone inside can always kind of lead to a big problems. As I said to you guys, I think having more control of your assets, having a maturity to understand that the breach can happen anytime, and not being associated to blame, but actually to be understanding how you behave in certain risk that can expose in the entire organization. That's the way that I think we should be handling that.
Very well said, Rafael. I must say that. Thank you so much. Rafael, I think I may come back to you once again after a few questions. There are a few questions for you. But the next question I would like to ask Bruce. So we have Boteng and we have Hoshim who wants to ask a question related to the security. So he says that what security threats are most leaders experiencing during COVID-19 in Ghana? And there is another question related to that, which is why is security governance required? So over to you, Bruce.
I was hoping that you would call somebody else to answer this question. To be honest, I feel that the real problem is in Ghana, us not realizing that we are being attacked. Okay, the ability to properly quantify or properly detect, you know, breaches that are coming within our system is you know, leaves a lot to be desired. Okay, so most of the business leaders would not have that as one of the threats that they, that they perceive to be attacking their organization. Okay, so most of the threats that they would be thinking about is, fraud and those are internal stuff, which I would say are more serious. But these days, with more with our use of more payment systems, mobile money, and those kind of solutions, those are some of the the things that a lot of people will be talking about. But to be honest, our information systems are under attack. They are seriously under attack. Okay, a lot of organizations, I can't say a lot, but organizations experience it. They don't want to talk about it. Actually, in Ghana, the disclosure mechanism is not matured. Okay, so this information doesn't go out too much. Okay, but it's something that should be addressed, and it's something that is being addressed. I mean, regulation is slowly catching up on some of these things, but the enforcement is a bit slow. Okay. Yeah, I think that's what I would like to say about this.
Thank you, Bruce. We have a compliment plus a question, Bruce, for you once again. So Alexander is saying that I like your CISO architecture and I want to adopt it. Would you suggest identity and access management should be a part of a block of security operations, risk management, and the GRC?
Definitely under security operation, because those are, the security operation aspect covers the technology the technology aspect implementations of your information security. Okay, so your asset management, we would need to understand the assets that are there. And then what other, your identity management these days is a very solid solution. Risk and the GRC are more of the management and governance aspects of the information security. Okay, so those are more of the documentation, the human side, the management requirements, the risk requirements, and these things. So anything that has to do with a technical solution then goes down to the SecOps.
Okay, okay, Bruce. So in the interest of time, I think we have just 5 more minutes. And next question I would like Jackie to answer. Which is, Nadamati says that if mobile money is comprised for 24 hours, what's the defense or the BCP actions since most people are switching to it in Ghana? Jackie, a question for you.
Thank you, Pooja. I'm going to speak very generally here for obvious reasons. I would expect that any company that would be running a mobile money service, being it a financial service, it would be one of your critical assets, and every effort will be made to protect this. So I would expect your RTO to be really non-existent. You're looking at maybe 0 to an hour or 0 to 2 hours, also depending on what the regulator or Bank of Ghana is saying. And you would adhere to that. I would expect that you would have dual redundancy in place to be able to switch adequately or to be able to recover within your RTO, RPO when any attack or when anything happens. So, sorry, I didn't see who asked the question. Oh, well, Precious. So whoever is running a mobile money setup in Ghana, it has to be highly available. So I would think that whenever there's a compromise on one side or whenever you lose service on one side, you would quickly switch to the other side to ensure that you are up and running within the regulator time that you've been allotted to as well. So every effort will be made to make sure that The downtime is very minimum on the mobile money service. So whatever is even happening with us, the consumer will probably not even feel it. You might just get a text, oh, we're experiencing issues. The next minute you are up again, okay? So every effort will be made to secure such a service. Every effort will make sure, will be made to ensure that it's highly redundant and highly available as well, okay?
Thank you, Jackie. So the next question from Benjamin, again about the insider trust. I think we have covered that part. So Rafael, I want to answer the next question from Pranab Bhattacharjee. So far we have using Office VPN, it's safe with a dual authentication RSA, LDAP, and then again antivirus, which will protect for internet traffic having a DLP with a forward proxy. Also, it's an encrypt. So I think this is what is the suggestion if he wants to be, if I'm not mistaken, Pranab, if I've understood you correct. Am I right, Rafael?
Yeah, you're definitely right. I think security is not just based on if you have encrypt or decrypt something, you are safe, right? So as soon that you pass A to B, then the data is no more encrypted. So then leaks to the problem, for example, and if someone is already inside of your network, so all these kind of layers of protection is already outside, right? So it's not gonna do any difference at all. Or what about, as I think, the most important aspect, and I think most of the companies suffer from the same incident, that is inside people, right? Inside threats, if they leak databases there. So what is your reaction to that aspect? Or just sharing a confidential spreadsheet that today information is on the screen. We are talking today here on this using Zoom. I could be sharing confidential file to everyone. So what is the kind of, what is your protection on that in terms of a behavior analytics to protect the data leak from leaking from your side, right? So I think, look, as security is a layer of, is like an onion, right? So you can have LDAP, you can have VPN, you can have dual authentication on LDAP, you can have a dual authentication on password. It's just one extra layer, and you have to consider as well the outside players, the hackers or the cybercrime. They are trying to take the easiest part of the role, right? So they're not gonna attack, I mean, so severe organizations with a high qualified security.
Yeah, exactly.
As you can see, for example, the banks are not suffering quite a lot. They do suffer, but not in that amount of, because it's a severe regulation industry as well. But what I'm trying to say is there is first, there is no one recipe that fulfills everyone. Second is the security depends on people, and people is still and will be the weakest point, because anyone can leak information if you like or not. We saw a big incident of F5. So imagine if he on this network that the lady or the person has suggested there, have a F5 there, what that all protections will mean? Nothing, right? So I think the security in that aspect is making sure that you control the security. And by the way, we as a practitioners, we need to think about this. Every solution that I apply is more people that you're hiring, because the solution doesn't work automatically. The solution is not going to pick the player and say, hey, there's a hacker here. You have to have professionals around, or a SOC team or a SIEM team to be managing the events that's happening on your network. So as I think my colleague was saying, you are under attack for sure, but what is your visibility? So you're about to walk into the edge to fall from the mountain, but why? Because you cannot see what's happening in your network. You don't have no control whatsoever. And it's not just buying technology that will save everything, right? You have to also invest in people. By the way, the hackers, they use tools to attack you, but in the end of the day, they are players, they are people. So don't measure technologies that will protect you as a front end, and that's it. You don't need people, because that's the people that will help you at the end of the day.
Very well said, Rafael, I must say that. So now I think this one last question we can take, which says that, I think we have covered this part. It says that, please, what should be the synergy between the CISO, risk management and audit in the COVID-19 period? Bruce, you would like to say something on this?
Well, I'm gonna be very kind of a first, and I'm gonna be very fast. I think it's gonna be a big fight there because it's a conflict of interest from the risk perspective, from the compliance perspective, from the CISO perspective, for an enabling perspective. So it's a big kind of a board discussion, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I think
I can understand Raphael, where Raphael is coming from. But from my side, from being a risk practitioner, I would say that the risk is the glue that brings them together. Okay, because we need to know the risks. We need to understand the risk before we can even know what other criteria we are going to adopt. Okay, we need to know the risk before we know what controls we are going to put in place. And the synergy between these three functions is one of the key the key objectives of the CISO. Okay, the ability of the CISO to be able to ensure the seamless movements of data, of information from the risk report being utilized in control development and being utilized as the audit criteria by the audit section. Okay, it is key. It is key that the CISO fully understands the importance of all these three and how the information flows all around, and that is key. So if we don't have the right CISO, then all the synergy would be lost.
Thank you, Bruce. I think we have few suggestions from Romeo and Frimpong and Andrew, who wants to suggest few things, which I think we have covered these topics. And I think Andrew wants to say that, would you say in Ghana, our risk acceptance is very high, which I think, Bruce, you have covered that part. And a lot of people have said thank you. And the last question, I would say, our employees, no, I think this part, one more question in between I want to take, which is talking about, yeah, so there's one very important point. I think I must read it for all of you, that I think we should also look at the type of programs we install in our devices. In Ghana, people don't really buy softwares and always really on cracks with pose of threat. So there are different suggestions also we have heard. And I think in the interest of time, what we can do is I request the technical people to write an email ID here, wherein they can mail our questions to us, and we will surely revert to them with the answers, and we will provide everything what they're looking for. So with this, I think we come to an end of our session, the presentation. So once again, I would like to extend my gratitude to all the speakers, Raphael, Jackie, Carl, and Bruce, for giving your valuable time. I also would like to thank all the participants for joining this session. I am sure and I hope you must have liked it and have taken a lot of inputs from the session. So with this, we come to an end. Thank you so much. Take all good care of yourself. Stay safe, follow the social distancing, and enjoy the life. Thank you so much. There are people have asked the question about the certification and all. I think the email ID which has been given to you, you please write back to them and they will surely help you out with the same. Okay, so thank you so much. Have a great evening and a good night. And I think we will see you soon in some other forum. Thank you so much.
Thank you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank 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 you. Bye.
Thank you so much. Wonderful, very insightful.
Thank
Wishing
you
you all the best. We hope to
Same.
have more of such
Sure.
discussions in the near future.
Surely.